I'm going to send out a public service announcement on this Drams from Dividends. Do not buy this bottle. I'm just drinking it because I hate wasting whiskey. Whatever you do, do not buy the Glenfiddich IPA release.
Oh, that was from Whiskey Fest. I remember that.
Right? And it's terrible. But like I said, I'm not the kind of guy that wastes whiskey.
So I shouldn't tweet Glenfiddich in this Drams from Dividends episode.
I love Glenfiddich regularly, but this Glenfiddich IPA experimental series is terrible.
Oh, boys.
What do you got
Good
there?
News.
Oh.
Good news.
Oh,
Red Label
thank God.
is empty.
Well, I am on my last of the third one of the third and final installment of the Bar Chef. Oh, come on, camera.
It gets there. Just be patient.
It's the Bourbon and Essex. So,
what's the Essex?
well, you'd like to know, wouldn't you? The Bourbon and Essex is
That's why you asked.
beautiful, nice dark color in the glass there. It is bourbon, cacao bitters, vanilla syrup, balsam fir bitters, cacao maraschino, Montenegro, port, cherry, and vanilla bitters. Floral, so the quote is, floral aromatics deepened with base notes of cola and sun-dried raisins, flavor of bitter chocolate, roasted plum, and Ontario forest coat the palate.
At the start there, was he speaking English or
Cheers.
what was going on?
I was articulating.
It was hard to tell what was going on.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Cheers, boys, and cheers to Bar Chef. Thanks for the sampler pack. There's a few
Cheers.
others going to get sent our way.
Nice.
Don't drink this. Just don't
Don't
do
drink
it.
that. Yeah, drink Bar Chef. Check out barchef.com. You can pick up these little sampler packs. Right on.
Who thought an IPA whiskey would be a good idea?
Nobody ever. What are we talking about?
Inflation? Are we talking about inflation?
Is it going to happen?
It always happens.
It always happens.
It's death, taxes, and inflation.
And the economist's hair growing.
Yeah.
Well, that's just science.
All right. So, okay. Inflation happens. What do we care? What are we going to do about it? What does it matter to us on our FI journey? What does it matter to our money, my money? What is my money going to do? What's it matter?
Well, if you're in debt, it's good. Right?
That's true. That's very true.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
That's probably one of the least worst things. You're like, you're in debt? Good job. Inflation's coming. It's okay. Stupid.
as long as you get a raise, right? Like, I mean, raises are not guaranteed. Just because there's inflation doesn't mean you're about to get a raise.
Oh, I can tell you raises are not guaranteed.
Yeah.
from experience.
Yeah.
Well, and that becomes the question is things are going to cost more.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to make sure you have more money to pay for the fact that things are going to cost more?
Right.
Well, hopefully our market investments, and if you own a property, these are supposed to be traditional inflation hedges, right? Your property value, I mean, forget the ridiculous appreciation that we've seen in a lot of real estate markets. The assumption is that real estate should appreciate somewhere along the lines of inflation. And if you're invested in the stock market and you are invested in companies that are doing business within the same economy that you're spending money, that they will raise their prices accordingly so that you will keep up with inflation through your investments, right? So that's our traditional outlook on how you keep up with inflation, but you can't keep up with it in a savings account.
No, you can't.
Right.
And traditionally, stocks lag on keeping up with inflation. They are not always great for the immediate keeping up with inflation. The things that keep up with inflation are tangible assets.
So you're saying there's a chance for arbitrage?
I mean, if you're wanting to speculate, like, wouldn't commodities be a great thing to be in right now?
So
if
I
the
should
price of everything is going up,
sell all my S&P index funds and
sell
get in.
all of it and buy
get in.
corn. Just a lot of corn.
Whoa, is the price of bourbon going up? I want to own corn.
Yeah, right. That is a real inflation hedge, right?
There you go.
Right there.
That's a
Yeah.
hedge right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
there you go.
I think you make a good point. We don't think about commodities. I mean, we use them. Like commodities are the things we actually use, right? It's how our food gets to our table. It's the farm, it's the agriculture, it's the base materials, right? Everybody wants an electric car. Where do you think those base materials come from? They come from the commodity sector, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those physical commodities, when the price of everything is going up, therefore the price of physical commodities will also go up.
Right. The sellers can raise the prices today, yesterday, tomorrow, right? They have that flexibility.
Supply and command for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now that's one thing.
Didn't even get the trailer park.
I got it. But that's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about because we hear so much US media. But the Canadian economy is essentially our big banks and commodities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a Canadian index fund, most of those companies are oil and gas companies, energy producers,
miners,
telecoms, big banks, miners, raw materials, those things. Like we might see a pretty good increase.
Okay, so I don't have to sell my TSX index fund?
I'm completely, this is for entertainment purposes only, and I'm completely speculating, but I would argue that we might see some pretty decent returns out of Canadian securities based on if inflation does hit at a decent clip. Most of our economy is commodity based.
Isn't the Canadian market due for a bit of a run here compared to the US?
Expected returns?
Right, but we have been lagging the last 10 years behind the US index, right?
Big time we have.
Yeah.
So,
well, and because of that is exactly what the accountant just said, and it's kind of what we're talking about here is commodities have been lacking big time, right? And let's be fair, everything in the economy is cyclical.
Okay, just sidebar, some of it has to be because we pay so many dividends, right?
What? Like the commodity stocks?
Canadian stocks pay way more
Canadian
dividends than American stocks. But that's an aside. Let's continue.
Yeah. Hold on, let me think about that. Bourbon is Essex is like liquid gold in a cup.
Is this the best one so far? Best of 3?
No, the Nordic was better.
Okay.
But they're all very good. They're all top shelf, and the IPA is there somewhere down.
Swill is the word you're looking for.
It's down.
Okay, so
I would love one of our viewers right now to make a comment and ask if the mechanic has shared any of his lovely bottles from Bar Chef with anybody else on the team.
They come in 2-ounce pours.
I don't.
And you're not allowed to come to my house. So they come in 4-ounce pours because these are like the personal size 4-ouncers. So I have been very careful, and I will actually show you the level that you're not going to see inside that because Mrs. Money Mechanic is very critical of the level of the bottle when I'm done the show here, that she gets her half of the sample. So you can take up the other half with her anytime you want for negotiations.
That's not a fight I'm winning.
Back to your, okay, now I have a question. I hold VCN, Vanguard, Total Canadian, whatever, you've got your iShares, whatever it is, you've got your Total Canadian Index Fund. Do I need to hold more than that? If I think that commodities may outperform moving forward because of inflation, because of the requirement for base materials that are part of agriculture and building. Look at forestry. It's gone crazy recently. It's $1,000 in lumber. Like all those kind of things are commodities that Canada is rich in. Do I need to hold more than just my normal ETF? Do I need to change my plan?
I would say no.
Okay.
And
if I want to tilt, okay, go ahead.
I will say no, especially because as much as all of our big banks are highly regarded and have international exposure, they're also the people funding all of the things going on in this country. So not only do you own all the energy producers and all the commodity producers and the forestry stocks, you also own the banks financing them.
Sorry, what was that? I was getting the nose here.
Yeah, just ignore
He's just rubbing it in now.
Yeah. He said it wasn't even the best one. He didn't say anything about the good one.
No, he didn't bring it up once.
No, he's just feeling nice from the two gluten-free beers he had earlier today.
I did a whole by myself, Drams for dividends with a good one, saying how good it was.
Okay.
Have you released that?
Uh-oh.
Send me the video. We'll put it up.
Are there ways to get some tilt?
Yeah, just to flex.
Yeah.
The host can deflect. Are there ways to get some tilt if I want some tilt?
Of course there are.
What are they?
There's commodity ETFs. There's
Okay, I started digging through some Morningstar ETFs on tilt, on commodity tilt, and the problem I had was too many of them were still high in oil and gas, and that's not where I want my tilt to be. I want my tilt to be more things that are renewable resource based. So if we're going to see,
or even food,
yeah.
so cow, literally COW, is the iShares Global Agriculture Index ETF.
So that's just food.
That's just food. So if you want your tilt to food prices going up, there it is, right there.
Nice.
Okay.
Then you've got the XEG, which is the iShares S&P Capped Energy Index ETF.
So that's going to be all gas.
That's going to be all gas. So if you think oil's going up, that's going to be all oil and natural gas.
Yeah. I think really what it comes down to is you probably don't need to stray far away. But this also begs the question we've talked about and lots of people talk about, should you have less Canadian bias in your portfolio? Because if you're an all-in-one fund, you're probably around 20 to 25%. Maybe that 25% is looking pretty good right now if we're going to see a rise in commodity prices. Whereas if you're trying to pare it down to the 3%, which Canada represents for the world, you may be missing out. You may be shaving off some gains by reducing your exposure.
Well, and
not saying we know which way it's going or what you should or shouldn't do, but there's some very smart people that put together the all-in-one portfolios.
Just from an expected returns point of view, if you have been at a certain Canadian level for a long time, maybe it's best to stay at that level.
I agree, because otherwise you're selling low.
Right?
Yeah. Right? I mean, it's not that our returns have been terrible, but they haven't been good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the economist brings up an awesome point there. And this plays two ways, right? It plays one way if you're in the accumulation phase and you're consistently adding to your portfolio. And it plays a different way if you're choosing to rebalance an existing portfolio, because you could totally screw yourself by rebalancing and selling out of Canada at a low, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're adding money and trying to get to your balance, then maybe you go, okay, I'm 25 there and I'm not going to add more. That's okay. That's different.
Yeah.
Sure. But I mean, there's still the argument that, okay, if you're putting it all in US, say, the expected return might not be as high as
how
percent.
Amazingly well have those stocks done for the past 10, like even with the pandemic and the crash and then coming right back and coming roaring back. I mean, at some point expected returns catch up with you.
But okay, just another tangent.
So much for 10 minutes, boys.
This is going to be a long Drams for dividend from dividends. Dividends from Drams? Drams from dividends.
How did we even get that name?
Money Master. Is the stock market ahead of the game here? Because we've gone through this pandemic and we haven't really had a real crash. I know we had a dip in recovery, but really even the low of the dip was not consistent with the impact of the pandemic. So is the market actually ahead of its time in predicting what inflation is going to do?
I mean, if it is, which I think you could be absolutely correct, if it is, you're not going to see real great returns as inflation catches up and these companies, their price earnings comes back into a real world where inflation's already been factored into those pricings and their earnings play catch up.
Yeah. So I don't know, just the thought I had.
No, it's a good thought, and it's that you're not wrong there, because not only that, but with all the money printing that's happened, there's the stock market prices everything in before the economy reacts, right? Mm-hmm. Inflation is something, and the problem with inflation
theoretically.
And let's not pretend like the economy and the stock market are in any way tied.
No, right. Exactly. But that's my point, though, is, and also what I was going to say to that was that the numbers that we get reported are the CPI, the Consumer Price Index inflation. There's a lot of ways that there's actual inflation is happening, and it doesn't actually reflect in the reported numbers.
What are
Right.
those ways?
Don't ask me that.
The actual
Well, you make
increase
a
in
claim.
prices.
You make a claim,
So-
and then
Because
I'll back them up.
the CPI does not include everything that we pay for. That's why.
the basket is a 2002
small.
basket.
It's too small.
It's
It
too
doesn't
small.
include all the things that we pay for.
Well, it's too small, and it's still 2002, I believe, and there's a lot of new things since 2002.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yes.
I mean, they
Thank you-
update the
Thank you for answering my question, but that or my lack of knowledge. That's why we're a team,
Yeah.
boys. That's why we're a team.
Well,
But-
there you go.
But I mean, at the same time, gas, food, housing, they're all in there. So,
Yeah.
well, it's not going to be perfect. It's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, unless you think that people spend 35% of their spending is on outside the main category.
You know what? I think it might be these days.
What's the percentage tontines built into the CPI?
Unfortunately, it's illegal, so probably zero.
Ah, man.
Wrapping up, this is a delicious beverage on my side.
Yeah.
Don't drink the Glenfiddich IPA. That's all I got to say.
Whoa, strong thumbs down from the accountant.
Is our conclusion that there might be inflation in the future?
I'd place a bet on it if I was a betting man, and I am.
I would bet on that. I would bet on there might be.
Because it's guaranteed.
Yeah. There we go.
It's just to the degree that we might disagree.
Modern monetary theory.
Okay. I think that was enough, eh?
Yeah, there we go. Cheers.
Tell us what you think.
Subscribe down below. Hit us up with a comment.
We haven't reached 20, so we're still bad at this. 20 this is 8.
Right. Yeah,
By-
right. We don't have
by-
to be good until 20.
by
This is 8.
Drams
Yeah,
for
we-
dividend
We've got
20.
12 more to practice.
Yeah. We're
Easy.
golden.